All right, everybody, we got the alerts out and we've got the telestrator working. And basically, the National Weather Service has decided to go ahead and put that tornado warning out. I think my friend Will Perry is working that office, but you can see here on the satellite picture that blow up, the three-dimensional nature of that storm as it came out of Rocky Mount and Franklin County and moved right into Roanoke, producing a flash flood warning, and that's still in effect. But luckily, just within the past couple of minutes, they've gone ahead and they have let the tornado warning expire for now. Now, I say for now because there are more storms upstream. But the one that was in effect for Roanoke and Vinton, that was in effect for a few minutes just to be on the safe side because they included the entire city of Roanoke, but the path was mainly on the eastern side of the city. And in fact, on my latest stream, you may have heard me say that I was more concerned about Vinton and Eastern County than I was Roanoke City proper. But still, you're looking at a lot of flash flooding and probably some high wind got in here as well. We had a 40-mile-per-hour winds possibly down to the ground and a pretty good signature on radar as well, especially considering the terrain. So this is a look at a satellite picture, and it is kind of a 3D look, if you will. What you're looking at in the lighter blues, and yay, I got my telestrator working. That's one good thing today. But these are the low-level winds, and they're coming in like this. And I know you're seeing the streaks come across, but the wind's blowing like this. And then if you go a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, you've got wind coming in like this. And you can kind of see those two interacting right here. If you pay very close attention to these bands, you can see that they're being tilted and they're kind of spinning around like that. That's a sign of a tropical system that has made landfall and is creating its own wind shear over the area. I need to update this front on this particular. You're going to see it move north and to the east. And I think it's already made, just went on through the area. So they're not even analyzed. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let me mark that for you because this is an important consideration I need to make as well. And I really needed that telestrator to show that earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and draw it because this is where we're seeing the spin. And I'm going to show you why. So this red line, let me make it bigger. This red line going toward Amherst County, Bedford, right up against Roanoke, where we had the tornado warning, northern Franklin County, right through Floyd, right through Galax, down through Boone. This is where wind is coming in from the southeast, and temperatures are near 75 degrees. And to the north here, you've got wind coming in from the northeast, and you've got temperatures near 59 degrees. So you've got a temperature differential, and we've got basically just a lot of spin that's being created just because the front's there. Never mind the fact that we've got a tropical storm. or tropical depression moving in. So right where the warm front is, typically what you see is when a storm crosses a warm front, the updraft encounters this wind from different directions, and it has no choice but to ingest it, and you start to see storms spin upon that. So let me erase it all. Now again, keep in mind where that warm front's at. I'll draw this white line again. I didn't do it too well there. Hold on one second. Watch the clouds bubble up as they meet that white line. That's where our tornadoes are developing. And we're also seeing it farther to the south, but you also notice that's also where the Storm Prediction Center has a tornado watch out for the rest of today for Lynchburg and Martinsville and Danville, South Boston, in and around the watch area. And the reason I say in and around is because Roanoke, you were just under a tornado warning. That includes I shared you on your Botetourt page, and I'm sorry for these community page sharings. I hope you don't mind. I know they're mainly for yard sales and checkpoints and stuff, but I try to get the word out as much as possible. I'm hoping you'll share that. But the weather doesn't care if the edge of the tornado watch is here. It's going off the wind shear. So let's look at the bloom of cloudiness here that came out of Roanoke. You can see that updraft, very distinct there. Let's pause it. So still in Botetourt County, there's a very pronounced updraft near Buchanan. And just to lighten the mood a little bit, it almost looks like a zit. And it kind of is in the atmosphere, actually. It's where the air is rising right there. So this is a strong storm, whether it's rotating or not. Just the fact that it's sticking up in the sky like that, and these brighter yellows and different colors here that are not light blue that stand out, these are the higher cloud tops. So as I zoom out a little bit, you can see that there are other areas that are seeing possible tornadoes, and they are in these deeper areas here from Richmond to Petersburg, north of Roanoke Rapids. And again, poor Brunswick County's got that second cell now with a special weather statement for possible rotation, and another tornado warning in North Carolina as well, and reports of funnel clouds there with these storms. So we've got several areas, and let me kind of highlight them in green. I've got the one over us, and there are breaks of sunshine in here, so that's adding to the instability. It's a case where if the sun comes out, that ain't good. That'll get these temperatures even warmer on the warm side of the front. But we are also seeing some very strong activity here going through Richmond, Petersburg. These bands, you can actually see the contours in the clouds. We'll get to these tornado warnings in a second. I mentioned they're coming out of Greenville and Kinston and redeveloping around Roanoke Rapids and getting close to Petersburg. But I also need to mention that we do have more development back to the south and to the west. So if you look around Greensboro and Troy, it doesn't look that bad right now, but any one of these little cells could go out on its own and go rogue and cross that warm front. In other words, let's zoom back in here. So let's go into Guilford County, Trinity, and High Point there. You see that other zit, as it would. This is the updraft overshooting top, so to speak, near Asheboro. Doesn't look too impressive on the satellite, right? But as it continues to move north, it's going to strengthen. And you see what happened there. We've got another big storm now in horse pasture, western Henry County. That has strengthened. So what will happen is, any one of these, especially with the sun coming out there, the sunshine is in the dark blue. That's where we don't have any clouds. The low clouds are in the light blue, and the high cloud tops are in the orange. All right, so as this stuff in Greensboro kind of nonchalantly moves toward Rockingham County and then the Martinsville, more than likely it's going to strengthen into what we're seeing right now. And this is moving pretty fast. The one that came out of Roanoke that prompted the tornado warnings now moving into Covington and Lexington. And I'm going to turn on the level 2 radar here just to get an idea of what's going on here on the ground, if it'll let me. It'll probably take a second to load. Lynchburg, you might be thinking, oh, I'm in the clear. You know, it's a partly cloudy day, not too bad. But yeah, your temperatures are getting a bit warm, too warm for my liking. 73 degrees, 75 in Danville, And again, you've got that temperature contrast there creating a bit of a spin in the atmosphere as well. So if you look at the actual radar, so you've got the satellite here near Iron Gate, but the actual radar still shows the notch near Blue Ridge and Fincastle. So don't count that storm out just because the warning expired. All of Botetourt County needs to be on guard just in case this thing starts to spin again. And you got to keep in mind too, this warm front isn't stalled, it's actually moving. So it'll continue moving to the north and east. It's just that the storm prediction or the weather prediction center does not update it but every few hours. But it's moving on in, and I know you can feel the change in the humidity from yesterday for sure. So we'll take the radar off. I just wanted to give you that vantage point. I also want to show you this. This is an area that I'm very concerned about for flooding. We've got numerous flash flood warnings in effect from Boone down through Asheville and Marion. Heavy rain up to 6 inches, 8.4 inches. We said this could happen. The model did pick it up. Yancey County, North Carolina. Boone's got flooding and vehicles stranded in Watauga County. The reason I mention this, even if you're not watching in Boone, is that that same ribbon of moisture is moving toward the Galax area. And if you can see very cleanly here, you can see this dashed green area. This is where the Weather Prediction Center is saying the same thing. They're saying, hey, this stuff's very heavy. We've got lots of moisture near this front, and it's going to move up to the northeast. So basically, it's the Weather Prediction Center saying that flood watch that's out is going to probably verify in the next few hours as that very heavy rain continues to move to the north, and it could train over the same areas. You remember I mentioned the stuff that's coming out of North Carolina that's redeveloping? We've got a new special weather statement out. See, right there, horse pasture, 40-mile-per-hour winds with that. There's the path that would take it toward Ferrum. Again, it's right on the edge of the tornado watch. So if you were living right near Philpott Lake, you've got about a half an hour till impact. But it could speed up a little bit, so you want to watch out. But the next half hour or so, maybe 45 minutes into Franklin County once again. This could be an evening where we have several warnings coming out all at once and across a large part of the area. And I know I preach this a lot, but usually when we get events like this, you know, it's the entire area that we're watching. So I'm going to go off from this map because I know that you get tired of looking at the same thing, but it was important for me to kind of show you that. I was meaning to do that and get the telestrator working here. Now this is a look at just where the tornado potential is. Okay, so I've got everything erased except for the warning, lightning, winds, but where you see these shaded areas, and there are very high values right now. This is called the Energy Helicity Index. Basically what it's telling us is this is where it's warm, it's unstable, and the wind is trying to spin and has potential to spin into tornadic activity. So you can see these very high values here. I can actually probe those values. They may not mean much to you, but you can see they're pretty high up on the scale here, 1.8, 1.7. Even values around 0.5 are significant. Remember, we had a tornado warning just now in Roanoke, and our Energy Helicity Index was only 0.5. So imagine what 1.7 could do. And it's not a guarantee. None of these are guarantees. However, we've seen some very impressive signatures already around Brunswick County, and another one right now going into Central Virginia. We need to look at that immediately, actually. So let me go back and see. There's a look at the warnings. But you can see the same values are over South Boston. If you're watching from Lynchburg, Rocky Mount, Martinsville, Patrick County, the South Boston, Eden, Roxborough, Henderson, all this area in red and orange up to Richmond, you need to be on guard. And you now see that purple area. That's where the Storm Prediction Center is saying, hey, this area is going to light up here, and it already is happening. You can see that lightning there. It updates live. I pay extra for that. That comes out of the Patreon money. I don't make any money off Patreon. I use it right to go back into this data. It's something I just am passionate about. So we've got a special weather statement out for Lawrenceville again with this cell, another one, and a little bit farther closer into Emporia. The tornado warning now, another one near Roanoke Rapids. That's just about to expire. We've got the latest one that looks a little more serious here, just to the east of Blackstone, between McKinney and Stony Creek, coming out of Alberta. That may have been the same cell, but I'm worried about Richmond and Petersburg because I think the trend is going to be for this activity. Oops, sorry about that. For this activity to shift to the north and to the east. And now we're getting more special weather statements out toward the coast where we had the football game last night. But all of these areas along and to the south of the warm front, and I need to update my warm front here too, have the potential for severe weather and tornadoes or straight line damaging winds, or both. And also flooding with the copious amounts of rain that we've got with these tropical systems here. So let me go in and give you a closer look. So we're going to go locally first, okay? So this is the flash flood warning for Roanoke. Luckily, the rain did not last too long. We'll put this in motion. You can see how it moved in. Boom, we had that quick tornado warning, quick flash flood warning, just because of the shape of Roanoke. And you notice when they issued it, they kind of nudged it west on purpose, just because Roanoke's a highly populated area. So the real rotation was like right in through here at around, what was it, about 425 or so. This is where the real rotation was, and it went right near Hardy and the Blue Ridge Parkway in Vinton. What they did is they went ahead and included the city just because there's so many people there, maybe commuting in and out of work. Just sometimes it's a social science kind of a thing. And again, you can see the warm fronts right there, so that really lined up, unfortunately, very well with what we would expect with a situation like this. You know, let me tell you, again, I've said it before, these are not isolated tornadoes. They're not, they're kind of brief, and I guess by definition they're isolated, but have you ever seen like a continuous wall of tornadoes here? No. I mean, we get outbreaks sometimes, but I just don't like that wording. And I kind of preach on that sometimes, and I apologize. The storm near Sandy Ridge, I need to look at that because there's a special weather statement out for that, and there is rotation in Sandy Ridge. If you were watching my first stream, I mentioned that Patrick County and Mount Airy and Stokes County down to Yadkin County and Sparta here, Wilkes County, North Carolina, this tends to be where we see our first signs of rotation. And then they begin to move, the storms themselves, they'll start to move and organize a little bit better as they come off the mountains. So we always watch this area from Winston-Salem and Greensboro and the Danbury and King and Mount Airy for the possibility of the hints of rotation, and we are seeing that. You've got reds going away from the radar, yellows going toward the radar there. It's broad, but it's there. You've got another one here. You've got another one here south of Mount Airy. You could almost imagine one here. As they get closer to the radar, the National Weather Service will be able to see these areas of rotation more clearly. And in other words, I guess what I'm trying to tell you is don't be surprised if you get a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning for either one of these in the coming 20 minutes. That's why I still want you to share, because you know, you think, okay, Jamie, the Roanoke one's expired. Why are you still talking? Well, there are so many more storms that are developing even as I speak, and it's almost impossible to keep up with them, to be honest with you. So all of this activity, North Wilkesboro, Yadkin County, Winston-Salem, I think we need to watch Thomasville as well. And that cell here around Danbury is in a favored location. Catherine Prosiv did some research that showed when these storms come off the mountains, they elongate and become skinnier, and they spin faster. So in some cases, the mountains enhance the tornadoes, especially when they're coming in from the southwest like this. Just briefly, I want to mention 7 inches of rain now coming down in Grandfather Mountain in Avery County, North Carolina. We've got street flooding still continuing around Boone and Watauga County. Looks like a huge flood event going on for our friends. And I can actually see some rotation east of Marion, this far away from the radar. So the mountains of North Carolina, yeah, they take it on the chin when a tropical system moves in. All right, so let's go from Roanoke. Well, let's look at this Botetourt storm real quick. Latest image here. Looks to be flattening out a bit. That's good news. It's moving into the cooler air. But as the warm front approaches, we may see a little bit more rotation try to develop even into the Allegheny Highlands. It's going to be a tough call to how far that rotation moves in. So I've got several tabs here of the different radar sites. Flat earthers would not like the fact that I have to go to different radar sites. You know why, right? Because the Earth's round and the beam goes out straight, so you can only see a certain amount of activity from each radar site. That's why we have different radars. So in other words, we've got Wakefield's radar up right now, and if you go near the Peanut Place on 360, you'll see out of nowhere there's woods, and then there's the National Weather Service Wakefield office. The radar dome is right there. So right near the dome, you're getting weather. It's hitting it at 60 or 70 feet. As you go away from the radar toward Emporia, the beam is already 2,700 feet off the ground. And for this tornado warning now near Dinwiddie, we're looking at 2,500 feet above the ground. And most of your tornadoes occur in the first 1,000 feet. So radar doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. That's where spotters and reports really are a big deal here. Amelia Courthouse, you are not officially in this tornado warning, but I'm going to read it to you from the Wakefield office here near McKinney. That was right here. It's now north of McKinney. It looks like a well-defined hook there, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. That's for south central Chesterfield County, south central Dinwiddie County, and southeastern Amelia County until 1:30. So that's for about another 25 minutes. Let's see, mobile homes destroyed. You don't want to be in a mobile home. I'd rather you get wet and get in a ditch than be in a mobile home. But take cover, and if you're watching me out here, and that's why I want you to share, because I don't know, I'm just guessing. I don't think I have a huge percentage of followers in Richmond yet. I'm trying to expand it a little bit, but I'm not trying to get more views. I'm trying to make sure if you've got a sibling, a parent, a friend that lives in Richmond and is working right now and may not be aware of the situation, if you share that out, that's one more source they could possibly get that could save a life. And there's a new study that's out that shows most people get their warnings from friends and family members. Those people are the ones that act. The ones that come across television, people tend to wait and they look outside to verify it, and those people end up getting injured or killed. Unfortunately, it's when you can text somebody or share a Facebook message or just a quick text message and say, hey, even get them to watch somebody else. I don't care. It's a matter of safety. So we've got a cluster of rotating storms. Again, the most significant one here in Dinwiddie to Sutherland. Let's look at the rotation on this one. And we've got to be with the radar. Yeah, we've got some pretty good rotation there. If I look up a little bit higher, it's a little more pronounced. That's been the tendency of this particular cluster of storms, but very pronounced. Starting to become a little more linear. In other words, it's not quite matching up parallel to the radar, but it's enough, especially when you go up to about, let's see, 7,000 feet in the mid-levels. We've definitely got a mid-level, what we call a mesocyclone. So you can almost picture a mesocyclone is like a big, huge funnel cloud in the sky. It doesn't reach the ground. It sometimes is accompanied by a wall cloud. Basically, the whole storm is spinning here north of McKinney and southwest of Sutherland, near Dinwiddie, Virginia. Within that, when you can concentrate that spin near the ground, especially in a tropical environment where you've got so much humidity in the air, it doesn't take much to get these things on the ground. That's why you're seeing these warnings popping up the way they are. Debris tracker. Yeah, I actually see some debris. I don't know if that was lofted into the air, but you can actually see some, anywhere you see anything that's not cranberry colored. So these yellows and greens, that's debris that the radar could be picking up out of Wakefield. So it'll be interesting to see if we get any reports. I'm looking here. Let's see, let me go to Wakefield's chat. Rotations continuing to persist and the environment is still the way it is. Okay, so they're saying, same thing with the shear. They're going to continue the tornado warning and extends into Dinwiddie and southern Chesterfield. That's directly from their meteorologist who's on pushing the button, basically. I can read that legally. I can tell you what it says, but I can't use it to my advantage or anything like that. Sometimes we'll chat, and it's just it's a neat thing that they are allowing me to do, because I do some TV here locally, and so I have a direct connection to a lot of the Weather Service offices, and I can see what they're thinking, or I can even ask them a question if I'm unsure about something that I have a question about. Sometimes they'll ask me something if something happened there. We do have numerous special weather statements out too for these other cells. And a special weather statement is just shy of either a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning. So like you folks in Emporia, Jarrett, even though that's just a special weather statement, it doesn't make your phone go off or anything. They are mentioning in the wording here, if you kind of put two and two together, at the very end, it says, if outdoors, consider seeking shelter inside a building. A tornado watch remains in effect until 3 p.m. for the area. So near Jarrett, this could basically start to spin at any moment. And I mentioned any little shower today could do that. So they're going to continue this one all the way up into, it's getting very close now to the polygon anyway, to Prince George and Hopewell. That's until 1:30 now. So that was the new polygon. That's why we just got that off the chat. Kind of read it there. But, if you follow that, trajectory, if you got anybody in Richmond, Hopewell, and Chesterfield, give them a heads up. You got about an hour maybe. And I'm not saying you'll get a tornado, but you're going to get some nasty storms here, it looks like, at the very least. And hopefully you're staying on here, because I tell you, if you jump off the stream for 5 minutes, things change fast. And that's why I'm kind of hopping around here. And I do apologize for that, but I've got to watch a lot of things here. So let's go back to Raleigh-Durham real quick. Look at their radar. Sometimes we can see better from Raleigh, especially for you folks in Halifax and South Boston. You're getting a bit of a break right now, but you can still see even from Raleigh that cell in western Henry County. It still bears watching. I would not be surprised if this starts to rotate more as it gets closer into Ferrum and Callaway in western Franklin County. And still keep on guard in Rocky Mount, because it's basically a northward movement. Sometimes these things will jog east, and any individual cells that you're seeing here could again cause problems. Again, we've already had a report of some trees down just from one of those cells that moved north into the Roanoke area as well. So we've already got some reports out of Raleigh of funnel clouds verified by both a firefighter and an amateur radio operator. That was earlier at 11 o'clock this morning, and at 8 o'clock this morning near Siler City, a firefighter reported the funnel cloud at Highway 421 in Siler City, Snow Camp Road. You've got more bands here that continue, and I will point this out, and I apologize if you heard me say it earlier. It bears repeating. This is Atlanta. This is basically where I'm showing tropical storm, but it's a depression. This is where Nicole's at. All right. The bands are all the way out here. So if you were a amateur forecaster and you were looking at those spaghetti plots where all the lines showed where the centers are going to go, and you said, okay, yeah, it's going to miss us. We're all the way out here. Well, in tropical systems, especially weak ones, the wind isn't as strong, but the wind field is what does it. So it's less concentrated wind, but you have all these bands here that go out 500 to 1,000 miles away from the center of the storm. And there's probably more offshore that the radar is not even picking up. They still have to rotate in here this evening into tonight. So I think the next, let's see, we're at 1:14 now. Between now and 7, 8 o'clock, we're going to be in for it in our local area. And that means flooding possible. That means the possibility of severe storms and, again, tornadoes. I don't know why we hesitate to say that sometimes in our forecasting. Sometimes you just got to call it like it is. I am seeing a lot of wind differential, basically, where the winds are changing between radar scans and Sutherland and northwest of Dinwiddie. That's a sign of rotation. I'm seeing some pretty strong rotation. This is off the Raleigh radar, but this is going up in the air, and sometimes it's good to get a different vantage point. So that's a well-defined area of rotation, and it'll pop up there in blue off of the Raleigh radar, picking it up there from the south. So our special weather statement here locally, we got to go back. I mentioned we'd be jumping around a bit. I'm going to go to my more detailed radar here. All right, so let's go back to Franklin County. And you might say, is this a repeat? We just had Jamie talking about the same area. Well, we typically, again, we see the genesis down in North Carolina, and sometimes it's not one, not two, but 3 areas of convection that we have to watch. New special weather statements in effect, and this is basically an early heads up. Ingramville, Prilliman, near Endicott, Dotson, Mill Creek, Henry area of Franklin County. Right now, I am seeing some tightening rotation just to the north of the horse pasture. What's it, the Blue Ridge Airport? Yeah, Spencer, right there at the airport, 698, 696. As you make your way up toward Dillon's Fork, Blackberry, North Bassett, West Bassett, I would go ahead and get into your safe place. This is near Ferrystone State Park, right on the western part of Henry County. And let's see, horse pasture, my friend Kim, you're good for right now. Martinsville's okay with this particular cell. And actually 220, I think, may be okay. But this tightening area of circulation does concern me here because we are seeing wind that is coming away from the radar right there. And that's just north of 58. And that's in Henry County. And it's going toward the radar there in blue. And the airport there at Spencer, the Blue Ridge Airport, is right there. And this is moving off to the north. So this has rotation with it. It's not quite strong enough for a tornado warning to be issued just yet, but I'm looking on chat and I'm expecting one possibly any second now. So stick with me here, and again, continue. If you got anybody in Henry County and Western Franklin County or Southern Franklin County, let them know it ain't over yet. We've got this next storm kind of moving in here. Storm relative velocities are also quite impressive. Spectrum width not showing much at the moment. Don't see anything on correlation coefficient. That's not surprising. Let's go back to reflectivity for a second, just see the radar. What can be deceiving is that they look like just ordinary showers. If you pay careful attention, though, you can see, and I'll teach you a little something here. Whenever you see little kinks, it's almost too big. Okay, so follow the reds and the oranges and the yellows. See how it kind of curves? And there's another little notch right there where there's nothing, and it kind of curves right there a little bit. You really kind of got to look at it in a weird kind of way. Takes a while to get used to it. But whenever you see little kinks like that, that's a sign that there's even a kink here at Prullman. that's a sign that the storm's trying to rotate. And it may be rotating, it just hasn't organized itself. Or actually, we just confirmed it was. It just hasn't organized itself into an actual tornado just yet. But I would not be surprised if we see a tornado warning. In effect, here we go. We just got a tornado warning. It hasn't popped up on the map yet. This is for Henry County until 1:30. Share, share, share. Sorry, I'm not trying to get viewers, trying to save lives. This is in effect for Henry County. And I don't know if they put it into Franklin just yet. I believe it's still just in Henry County. There you see it on the screen. You got it here first. That's the advantage. You were if you were on Patreon or on my free site yesterday, I told you this would not be just a run-of-the-mill kind of day. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just trying to explain there are situations where it becomes, you recognize patterns, basically. And that's the way I forecast. So we have a landfalling tropical system. We've got these storms coming in. And I saw that tightening up there across North Carolina. This also includes most of Bassett, Stanleytown, Bassett Forks. My friends at the radio station, B99.9, you need to take cover. If you can get on the air and warn people, that would be good. Go ahead and activate your EAS. Sandville, Blackberry, Pleasant Grove. It's north of the airport. They've got the polygon down here around Spencer, but the actual rotation is just to the north there on Route 696. And this also now includes 220 up to Oak Level. So they have not drawn it into Franklin County just yet. I say that because we've seen these maintain, even strengthen as they get closer to Franklin County. So I would not be surprised if this ends up closer to Fort Mountain and maybe even the Sidnersville area. Again, that's an area that's been hit before. It's weird how the climatology repeats itself from time to time. But yeah, you're looking at some spin there, and that's enough for the National Weather Service. And they don't do it lightly. They don't just put a tornado warning out for kicks. They really make sure there's enough rotation to warrant making your phones go off and interrupting programming or whatever you've got going on. Right now, this is going to be somewhat delayed. We're going to get a new image here in just a second. But Dillon's Fork there on 687 as you make your way off 220 there. And Bassett Forks is going to come very close to this as well. Martinsville, it's going to miss you to the west. So if you're in Henry County, Ridgeway, you're good for this one. Martinsville, you're okay, although you may see it just off to your northwest. And again, it doesn't mean you may not get something later. But this particular cell is moving in between Bassett and Bassett Forks and Stanleytown. It's also got a lot of rain with it, and that presents its own problem because that area floods very easily. But you can see a little bit of a hook now. Remember I mentioned the backward C shape? It's starting to become a little more pronounced. And the reason is the updraft forms a clear slot and makes it bow in like that, and then the downdraft wraps around the back of it, and you end up with a kind of a hook shape, if you will. Not all of them do that, but a lot of them do. Pleasant Grove, Dillon's Fork, Bunnell Fork, there's a new image. So west of Bassett's already getting some heavy rain. You should already be in a safe place in a bathroom, in a basement. If you live in a mobile home, you need to get in a ditch and just tough out the rain for a few minutes, because it's actually going to be a bit safer if you can get to a lower spot. Mobile homes will unfortunately, they'll disintegrate or they'll get flipped very easily with just 60 mile per hour winds, which brings me to do this. I want to see how high the winds are off of our velocity here. So let's see, the radar is picking up nearly 70 mile per hour winds coming toward the radar. And then away from the radar, it's picking up about 13 to 20 mile per hour winds. So we call that gate-to-gate shear. And that's impressive enough, definitely more than enough for the tornado warning to be issued there. So I'm going to give you a broader view of what's going on. We've got a flash flood warning still in effect for Roanoke. We've got a tornado warning in effect for Henry County and a special weather statement surrounding it for southern Franklin County, southwest Franklin County, as this is going to be moving closer into Franklin County with time out of the Bassett area. We've got numerous special weather statements and earlier tornado warnings out toward Petersburg, and numerous additional storms from Emporia down toward Roanoke Rapids in North Carolina. And then we've got more storms upstream from Asheboro down to Statesville coming out of the upstate of South Carolina. The radar's not picking it up, but you can see the special weather statements there. And we've also got a major flooding event happening along the mountains. That's going to be going into Hillsville and Galax. I think your main threat from Wytheville to Radford and Hillsville is going to be maybe, several inches of rain causing some flooding issues for you. But this is the newer radar image there. So it looks like it's near Blackberry, Pinnell Fork, and again, it's heading right into Bassett, unfortunately. What I want to do is I want to check and see just what this looks like on this particular radar. This is a good piece of software that you can get. And yeah, when you see the yellows, that's not good. We talk about greens and reds being together, but when you get to the yellows, those are those higher winds I was talking about. Now we're picking up here just off the ground at 2,500 feet. I'm getting winds at 95 miles per hour toward the radar. And away from the radar, we're at about 35 miles per hour. We go down to the surface a little weaker, but we still have that 1 pixel that's up around 95 miles. Believe it or not, that's close to the ground. That's at 1,400 feet. So even if it would not produce a tornado, the fact that it's circulating, that can bring that wind down, especially when you have a heavy rain falling on it. This is a dangerous storm. It's headed toward Philpott Lake there. They've got a dew point of 72, very moist air. And look, it's just to the west of where we had 2 trees down from the earlier storm, maybe an hour or 2 ago. But I've got the satellite imagery on here, so you can kind of see a little bit of where the polygon starts and ends. So this is Fielddale. You're fine in Fielddale, okay? Let's identify some more landmarks. This is Stanleytown. So this would be 220 and Bassett Forks. This is Bassett itself. And I'm not familiar. I know there's some businesses here. I forget which ones they are, but I know that you can follow this road on down. I'm concerned because there's a lot of development here. Just going off the satellite. If I erase the rest of it, you can see it's over rural areas right now. Got a few homes and businesses to the southwest of Bassett, unfortunately. But if it gets closer into Bassett, obviously that's a more populated area of Henry County. You can see the school there. That's in the path of this. If it's on the ground or if it decides to get to the ground, it certainly is holding together fairly well. The values have dropped off just a hair. So that 95 mile an hour that we just saw a second ago, that pixel right there, that's when the warning came out, and that was at 1,300 feet. You can see that as it advanced north, it did weaken. But I caution you, because these tornadoes will cycle. They don't necessarily just go away. Sometimes they'll encounter any little random piece of topography or a little bit of cool air, or they just can't hold themselves together forever. So the storm will still rotate, but the tornado may go away and it may come back. Maybe you've seen videos of that, where it kind of forms like a rope and then all of a sudden it gets thick again and kind of like a wedge tornado. It certainly looked like it was well developed just about 10 minutes ago. So now the question is, does it continue to weaken, or will it cycle back? Will it cycle back as it's nearing Bassett right now? Either way, in Bassett, you still have some very strong wind right on your doorstep and some really heavy rain there on the west side of Bassett. So you're going to have some runoff from that. Let's see if I'm seeing any debris with this. when I was at Channel 10, I did a study, kind of informal, on where our tornadoes develop, and this is the zone for whatever reason. I know it's the mountains, that kind of protect us, but more often than not, it's something else going on. I think it's the direction of the storm systems and the way they come off the mountains. It may be doing it. We still got a pretty good core here going into Oak Level. The looks like they've expired now, the tornado warning, because we did see it weaken. That's good news. We do have weak rotation now. Okay, it's still there. You can still see those reds and greens. It's just not quite as strong as it was right here. All right, so if there was a tornado, hopefully it was brief and did little damage. Probably was a funnel cloud. I didn't see a lot of correlation drop there. Either way, some strong wind in this, and it's a well-developed cell. So I'm still going to watch this with each scan. They're going to scan that radar fast for us now because it is still spinning. So don't let the guard down just because the warning went away. The tan line is a special weather statement, and it's there for a reason. Again, it's kind of a heads up to say this is the prelude to what could be a warning. So this could redevelop. I would keep my guard up in Rocky Mountain, Ferrum, and Centersville, Southern Franklin County, even out toward Dode Run. I would watch that area very carefully. Roanoke, still need to watch out for flooding because the rain from this is still moving north, and the headwaters of a lot of our rivers in Franklin County and a lot of areas are on the Blue Ridge, and that's where a lot of the rain's falling because the upslope flow is going on there. And I saw something too that I didn't like. All this stuff in North Carolina, these little sporadic showers. Summerfield, let's just look at that. Oak Ridge, that's a beautiful area to drive through. Getting some impressive mid-level circulation between Kernersville and Greensboro, Guilford County, east of Walkertown. So again, you can almost pick out rotational couplets, if you will. Couplet may be a strong word technically, but that spinning, let's see, this one in southern Patrick County has a little bit of spin with it. We've got some very broad spin in Mount Airy and Wilkesboro, and you can see around Statesville too, in Yadkinville. Obviously this isn't a tornado, it's just a very broad area of spin, but if you can get a storm to move across that and focus it a little bit more, you see it on the radar, it doesn't look that impressive, but if you get an updraft in that, things change real quick. We're getting updates now every 2 minutes or so. So much so that I didn't even get the complete radar scan on this. Ooh, and we've got, okay, now we've got some breaking news. We've got a tornado report, or at least a funnel cloud report out of, what's that, Brunswick County with that earlier storm. A train spotter did report a funnel cloud at 12:35, yeah, 12:35 this afternoon. That was with that cell we were just watching. And I mentioned, if you don't get a tornado, you probably do see a funnel cloud because of the upper level rotation was pretty pronounced. So that's somebody that's been trained to spot this stuff and distinguish between a tornado and funnel cloud. That is north of South Hill in Lawrenceville, and that same cell now continues in the Chesterfield in Virginia as well, and it still has rotation with that, as do the storms around Emporia nearing Sussex, and Dinwiddie, and eventually maybe Richmond. On your doorstep, Chesterfield, Richmond, let folks know. Got a lightning jump there as well. The research suggests that when storms become more severe, especially when they try to produce tornadoes, for whatever reason, they get a bit of a lightning jump. So I'm getting more concerned now. I don't know if this one's going to hold together in Franklin County. That could be good news. But I am seeing around Woolwine, and I'm seeing around Mount Airy and in the Danbury. especially Winston-Salem to Greensboro, near Oak Ridge. I feel like if I remember, there's a McDonald's there, or there's like a nice shopping area there now. If you go to the beach, you can stop and take you a little bathroom break or whatever and get you some biscuits or whatever. If I remember right. I know that area has built up a lot since I used to take, 68. But anyway, just trying to get your bearings. That has the most impressive rotation right now. That's Guilford County going into southern Rockingham County. So I want to give you an early heads up now. You may see a special weather statement, a little tan box any second now for Rockingham County, North Carolina. This also happens to be where Raleigh takes responsibility from Blacksburg, or vice versa. So Raleigh's watching it right now, but as it moves into Rockingham County, it'll be a Blacksburg decision in their office. I don't like all these yellows that I'm seeing. Basically, those are really high winds right off the ground, and that enhances the tornado potential. Speaking of which, I don't want to negate what I'm seeing here. Hold on one second. So here's our rotational tracks. See if I can wake up this connection again. There we go. So you see numerous tracks here. We had that one. Let me zoom in just a touch. I don't like what I'm seeing toward Richmond, folks. This one right here is, when you get out of the, this is just a measure of rotation. And you see how tight it is around Lawrenceville there. It's where they had the report of the funnel cloud from the red to the blue. And then you go just west of Petersburg, and it's still in the red there. That's pretty good rotation. That's it's pretty impressive. So it's heading toward Greater Richmond. Sandston, Chesterfield need to take cover right now. All right, but moving back to the west, I can also measure the rotation that we had locally not too long ago. This is over the past hour. You see the first cell that produced the possible damage coming through Henry County. This was actually the latest one, the stronger one. Then the one here off to the west, I believe that was the one that ended up in Roanoke. Could have been 3 or 4 more, but notice there's several streaks here. So all of the showers have been rotating, maybe just a little bit, but then every now and then one will go bonkers on us, and that's where you see the tornado warning. And again, a reminder that, let me fill this up for you. That whole area in red, this is not a warning. This is a tornado watch that's in effect until 3 o'clock. And it would not surprise me if that gets extended, because we're coming up on 2 o'clock. And we still have the Nicole, or Depression Nicole, down to the south. We still have a lot of wind shear there that we're going to watch. But I did have, that's a picture I took out of Halifax County of a tree that just came down in the rain last night. Lots of dangers at night you want to keep an eye on. Wanted to show you this. And this is where I drop viewers. So please don't go away yet. This is worth seeing. Okay? This is the supercell composite right now. This is the potential as the math equations that we've come up with when we combine rotation and all that stuff. This is where the best chance of a tornado is. And you can see I go back 4 hours. It wasn't that high over our area. It was in North Carolina. Now I'm advancing it to current. And you can see how it's moved closer to Richmond, the bullseye has. But the edge of it has got back into our area. So now let's forecast it out to another 4 to 6 hours. And it does finally move out here by around 7 p.m. So I think at 6 or 7, we will start to see things quiet down, unless you're in Richmond and things are going to continue to heat up there and even up to D.C. There's a few ways I can show you this, and I don't want to get too technical because you'll sign off. This is the violent tornado parameter. You can see that we've got elevated areas of 1 to 2 over Franklin County into Henry County. Bullseye there where we're seeing all the warnings right now. around Richmond and Amelia and Chesterfield, that area, Emporia, down into North Carolina still. We put that in motion over the past 4 hours. So this was 10 o'clock this morning. This was noon. This was 2. So you can see the trend, right? Overall wind shear. How much spin can we get? Well, there's plenty. 45 knots to 50 knots of wind shear. And that will continue for the next several hours, and eventually by 7 it does move out. Let me look at something else here. Stretching potentials, not that big a deal. This is why we're seeing some heavy rain, though. We've got these vectors here, basically really strong winds. I can show it to you here. At about 5,000 feet, it's really windy. If you went to the parkway today or up on the top of a mountain, you're going to get blown around by 40, 45 mile per hour winds. There's just a lot of moisture in the air. There you see it. That's the amount of moisture transport that's also producing the flooding in Boone, and may produce more flooding in southwest parts of the area. The jet stream's playing a role in this as well. It's kind of interacting with this decaying tropical system, and it's basically siphoning the moisture and the wind off of it. I'm just kind of, I'm basically doing a live analysis here. So here we see the counterclockwise circulation. So it looks like Depression Nicole is now over Gatlinburg. So it has made some progress from Atlanta. Oh, it's right here. But the problem, as I've mentioned so many times, is the wind kind of blows, around like a counterclockwise circle. But at the surface, because of friction changes everything. It slows the wind speed down so that it blows inward and counterclockwise. And it's that inward push to fill that void of air. It's low pressure, so there's an absence of air here. It's that inward push that causes the wind direction, instead of going like this, it kind of curves back in. And you can see little hints of that there. If I erase all that, you can see right there near Bristol, it's kind of curving back in. And that's the problem. So this is at the surface. You've got those southeasterly winds. And again, let's just go up to 925 millibars. Winds are more out of the south-southeast. And then if we continue to go up in the air, you see winds out of the due south. And if we go up a little further, still out of the south, go up a little further, and south, maybe even south-southwest with time. I don't think anything else here is going to tickle your fancy too much in terms of learning much. And we must have just got a tornado warning for Franklin County, because the first time I've had an alert go off. So Franklin County under a tornado warning now till 2 o'clock. Share, share, share. I told you this wasn't over, that we've had it re-strengthened here. So let me zoom back in to the area of concern. I've got sunshine out my window. That is not good. You've got a hook echo there near Henry. You'll see the warning here pop up in a second, but Route 40 going southwest of Rocky Mount, there is a rotating storm. This is the same one that we were watching earlier. There's also some rotation around Callaway and Dillon's Mill. This tornado warning was issued at 1:41. It's in effect until 2 o'clock, and I'm going to get the specs on it here as soon as I go over. Yep, and I told you, I said watch out, Franklin County, it could happen again. So what's happened is it's spun back up. It cycled. That's exactly what we were talking about here. I'm trying to see if the Weather Service said anything directly. Okay. It's near Wadesboro, the circulation, the hook echo. You can see it there near Thornton Mountain and Pruliman. If you live in Henry, I think you're okay. It's just past you. But it's not too far away from Ferrum. Ferrum, it may just pass you to the east. Cook's Knob, that pretty little mountain near Ferrum, is very close to this. Beach Mountain, Route 40 is right here. Here's Wadesboro. This is the area you need to watch, and you need to go ahead and get into a basement. You need to get into a bathroom. You need to get under a workbench, whatever you can think of. If you've got an old football helmet or something like that, put that on too. Because again, this could be the real deal. Let's look at the velocity, and we have it tightening up there. High res velocity, okay. Yep, right there at 606 near Thornton Mountain. It's heading right toward Wade Park. And eventually it might get to the west side of Rocky Mount. So Rocky Mount is under a tornado warning. That includes Grassy Hill. That includes Mom. Take cover. I'll actually text her. She probably got the warning, but let's make sure. And Dad's at the store. He's kind of on the west side, Scuffling Hill there. All right, just got that text out. Sorry about that. I'm human too. Want to make sure everybody's okay. Ferrum, Wadesboro, Dugwell, Gogginsville. They've extended all the way up to Boone's Mill, Red Valley, Burnt Chimney. That's kind of where I'm at. So we have that going off as well. Normally I would run a crawl on cable 12, but I think the cable company handles that for me in a situation like this. So but definitely a hook echo there nearing right at Route 40. And right near Ferrum College. That's not good. I think it's just to the east of Ferrum College. Yeah. So here's Ferrum College. Here's Adams Stadium. There's going to be a game there tomorrow, hopefully. The hook echo, though, is just off to the east as you make your way back toward the old country store there as you pass the Vulcan Bridge and as you go past the rescue squad. Bowling's hot dogs right here. Great hot dogs, but they need to be sheltering right now. Getting out of that building and getting into a ditch or getting underneath the counter or something. Anything that can protect you from the outside, because as many walls or pieces of furniture or whatever you can get in between you and the outdoors have been, that's been studied to save lives. And so that is something you want to definitely do. If you can find a closet with no windows, you kind of got to think on your feet. And that's why I try to get people already ready for this when it happens, so you don't have to think of these things at the last minute. So now we're on our other program here. This will give us a little more detail here. Rocky Mount officially is in the polygon. Let's put this in motion. Sorry for jogging around the picture. I'm going to try to keep it more still for you. I apologize. So that rotation held together. Let's go back into Henry County. You can see where it weakened. So there was the first tornado warning. It weakened. It moved back into Franklin County, and then it tightened back up again. I will say it's not as tight as it was when it was in Henry County. However, we may find if we go up in elevation that it is. It's not like super strong, but at the same time it's very pronounced, especially given the conditions here. So Rocky Mount needs to take cover. That polygon includes, and we say respect the polygon. So this is 220. Your warning starts as soon as you get past the landfill, it looks like, and 220 business. That includes the high school, Pell Avenue. That includes areas basically downtown Rocky Mount, all the way to Ferrum. Ferrum will be in the clear not too far from now. Hopefully there's no debris in the air. I don't see anything major at the moment. We definitely have circulation. And we definitely kind of have a hook going on there too. Almost a donut hole right here. See that circle? That's spin, that's a loft. Basically what happens is the storm itself, this is not the tornado, but the storm itself gets the spinning so fast that it forms this concentric circle of either debris or heavier rainfall, and you almost have like an eye-like feature right there in the middle, right? And then you can see also here, there's an inflow notch here and an inflow notch here. That's where the air is coming into the storm. And then you've got kind of a larger hook echo right here. These are almost miniature cold fronts when you look at them on a very small scale, but unfortunately they can do damage. I don't think this is on the ground at the moment. I don't have any reports coming in, but we definitely are under that tornado warning, and that rotation is pretty tight, and there may be more rotation developing even in this part. It may shift more into Boone's Mill with time. I think that's why they also had that polygon up there. There's a hint of rotation north of Ferrum as well. I feel like you could probably see a funnel cloud in Ferrum, but I don't want to tell you to go out and look at it, because if you're in the warning, you need to be taking shelter. And the way these showers are developing, there's more upstream. So any of these could end up being a tornado warning, you know? And I know I'm repeating myself, but I just said that about this one. And this was in, what, Stokes County? Got into Henry County, and it went crazy on us with rotation and wind speed, just pure wind speed. All right. I'm going to recalibrate my vector here to see how fast this is moving. So what we do is we put a marker here, go back in time, we'll place our marker where we think the wraparound part of that was. We'll advance this to current, and I'll put the marker here, store motion from marker. So now what I can do is I'll go ahead and place the marker there. Okay, and that's, as soon as I did it, they did it. So now Ferrum's in the clear. Still, part of Rocky Mount is under this warning. But what I was doing, I was trying to get the newest storm relative velocity. And it's sort of weak, a little bit stronger aloft. Maybe blocking somewhat by the parkway, though. The radar beam there is getting this, well, it's getting it pretty low. And actually, can you see this little yellow cursor? This is where is that me? Yeah, okay, that's where I'm at. So I'm just on the edge of this polygon. I might be able to give you a report here in just a second. Not really practicing what I preach, am I? I'm looking at the size of the raindrops, just indicating a strong updraft, which is the first ingredient. No debris yet, that's good. We'll get a new image every few seconds. If this doesn't strengthen, it may go away here in a minute. But I don't want to give you that false hope just yet. You can see this, the core value of rotation right there at Ferrum. That's when it was, this is just measures pure rotation. It was over Henry at 132. Now this is at 136, 139. They put the warning out at 141, 143. You see how it moved, just missed Ferrum. That was, let's see, 148. Just missed Rocky Mount. That's actually, so this takes away everything but the rotation. So I'd actually put my marker right here. And let's see if I can, okay, and it continues to update again. We're getting this every couple of minutes now, so you don't want to go anywhere. And I'm sure you probably have the other guys on your television or whatever, but you know, if you can get 2 or 3 redundant ways of getting warnings and information, it's actually not a bad thing. That's also been proven to save lives. So if I'm just looking at the satellite data, I see lots of farmland, it looks like, lots of homes and property here. that could be in this area of rotation. And see, it's moving kind of north-northeast. So the good news is there's just a bunch of trees out here, but the bad news is this road here is kind of in the way. I'll try to get the name of that for you. So this will be Grassy Hill, right? So that's down toward, let's see, that's the minute mark. There's Scuffling Hill, okay. So you're going down 6 Mile Post Road, and it would be, if you took one of these roads back up to the north, toward Boone's Mill, or toward, I guess toward Callaway. I think Callaway's a little farther north. I mean, it's beautiful country. You just don't want to ever see something like this. And honestly, it's not the strongest rotation I've seen today. At 1.8 degrees it is, and that's at 5,000 feet. And it's pretty strong too at about 4,000 feet. So it's definitely spinning. And it still kind of has that hook signature to it. Looks like Rocky Mount, you're okay now. Even though you're officially in the polygon, what you're going to probably see is a new polygon issued that will shave Rocky Mount away from this. But Boone's Mill, you've got some really heavy rain coming. It's probably going to flood some areas. And you probably got a lot of wind coming too, even if you don't get a tornado. Just a lot of wind to be dealt with in here. And remember, Roanoke, you've got a flash flood warning in effect until 6:30. Boy, they were smart in doing that because the storm was over in 15 minutes, but they knew, the Weather Service, that there'd be more storms popping up there. Okay, so now the tornado warning has expired as expected because the rotation weakened. Now, what did we learn from Henry County? We learned that we need to keep an eye on it, right? So let's see if it cycles again. We'll keep our eye on it. But Franklin County now, it's just looking at maybe a broadly rotating storm. There may have been a funnel cloud. I did not see any debris, but definitely there's a bit of a hook there. There was some mid-level rotation mainly. And there's still a special weather statement out for this because of the weak rotation. So anybody in this tan polygon here still needs to be on guard because another tornado warning could be issued at any point. Now, to that effect, watch it. Oh, good day. Watch any of these storms, especially this one near Bedford, just west of Bedford near Hardy. It's right over the warm front. Yet another cluster here, Patrick County. This would be the 3rd or 4th cluster. I'd watch this stuff here around Martinsville and Danville. You can't see that there. I'd watch that as well. Because I bet all of that is rotating. If I went and showed you the velocity, let's see. Yep, you've got some weak rotation developing near Stewart. It's broad, but it's there. And as it moves out of Stewart, it tends to strengthen sometimes. So that's a concern. This Bedford County one here has got some strong wind. I don't see a lot of rotation in that at the moment. May not have enough of an updraft, but there's plenty of sun out here. It's 77 in Brookneal. My goodness. It's 80 in Halifax. South Boston's up to 80 degrees. That's a tornado's dream, is to have that warm, moist air. We've had stronger tornadoes when it's been cloudy and 70 degrees, so that concerns me a bit. Down the road here, watch out south side. Even though you don't have the warnings yet, you do have those southeast southeast winds and temperatures between 70 and 80. Anytime you got that meeting up with temperatures near 60 and still 59 at Mountain Lake, you're going to have some wild weather. And again, I'm seeing broad rotation coming out of North Carolina as well. That was our funnel cloud report. All right, what I'm going to do, show you one of the sources here. While we've got a second to breathe, this particular version has not updated the expiration of the tornado warning, but you can see it's counting down by the second there. I've got this window too big. Hold on one second. Let me get... One day I'll have this like Ryan Hall, y'all, and have it all professional looking. All right. 35 more seconds officially, but they've already expired that. What you've got underlaid here are wind gusts. So these are just straight line winds that are coming around the center of what's left of Nicole. So you can see 20 to 25 mile per hour winds moving in. We've got 35 mile per hour winds in Galax now. That's where we've got the flooding going on. And if you look very carefully down here, you can see where the National Weather or the National Hurricane Center has put Tropical Depression Nicole, again near Newport, Tennessee. There went the tornado warning. Sometimes it takes the programs a little while to catch up. Guess where it got stronger? That's right, it got stronger right at the warm front. So anything that again crosses this front tends to get stronger, at least in our area. You folks around Lexington and Charlottesville and Culpeper too, you need to watch out because this stuff coming out of Richmond and what's maybe coming upstream later tonight could give you some trouble there as well. So I'm just going to put this in motion so you can get an overall idea over the past 6 hours of what this system looks like. Sometimes it's best just to sit and take a look back instead of me just jogging everything around. You can see the rain spiraling all the way into Ohio, into Pittsburgh, into West Virginia. Initially, we thought we would be in that canopy of rain there around Pittsburgh. But turns out the center went farther west, and that puts us into tornado threat. And we still have enough rain for the flood threat. So kind of a worst case scenario. It's also interesting to see that one cluster of tornado warnings develop from Raleigh up to Virginia Beach there, and they continue getting very close to Richmond. I can see a lowering of a broad cloud base out my window, but nothing that's rotating, at least in a concentric like sense. Very, very broad, if anything, so it's not really catching my eye. The clouds are certainly low to the ground out my window, but they are not reaching the ground in a funnel-like fashion or anything like that. So that's some good news for right now, anyway. So the different satellite images here. Again, these can be a clue. Sometimes I like this better than radar because they can give you a clue of where the updrafts are. And the updraft is what forms the, I'll call them zits again, these little indentions that you see in the cloud cover, the bright spots. And the sun's getting a little bit lower in the sky, so I have to adjust my gamma a little bit. I want to get it where you can see the shadows on the tops of these clouds, because they're literally shooting up into the air, and then you can actually see that cell right there, right over Martinsville, a new cell there at 203. These are the higher clouds. See, Botetourt County still getting some embedded, deeper activity. Look at Richmond. Richmond now under a tornado warning. That includes Mechanicsville, Chester, Hopewell. You're under a special weather statement. The tornado warning in Richmond expires in 27 minutes, so they got that in effect until, what, 2:30. Moving to the northeast at 32 miles per hour. It's radar indicated right now. They've all been radar indicated. There's also one to the southwest here. That's radar indicated, moving to the northeast at 36 miles per hour. And there's the projected track. And really, Richmond is really close to this thing. There's another one now. Our friends down here in, let's see, how do I get rid of that? Or Waverly, under a tornado warning for another 26 minutes. So things just got busy in eastern Virginia once again. There are 3 tornado warnings in effect and at least 2 severe thunderstorm warnings, or special weather statements, rather. Stick with me here. Just put your phone down or whatever. But if you got anybody in Richmond or Waverly, Chester, and Petersburg, you might want to let them know. They probably already do, but just in case, again, the science doesn't lie on it. There's a lot of social science that we do that basically looks at how people look at the forecast. When we tell them to take cover, do they take cover? When we tell them there's a chance of a tornado, do they think it's a chance of a tornado, or they think maybe it's something small? That kind of thing. And anyway, the science is basically has proven that when a family member calls, or a friend, that's when people take action. I had a track on here. Oh, there. Just need to click on it, Jamie. Okay, there we go. Yep, Richmond, and it's now Ashland. I'm seeing, you see the 3-dimensional look here to the shadows. Mechanicsville, Ashland, you may see that extended. So the Richmond area right now under a tornado warning. Don't have any warnings in our immediate area. See that one report out of South Hill from the funnel cloud that we had there. Let's go in closer to Richmond. And we'll go to our detailed radar and we'll switch over to Wakefield's vantage point. Already from Blacksburg you can see, it's not good when you can see a tornado from or a severe storm from a neighboring radar. Alright, so there's, oh wow, that one warning's pretty close to the Weather Service office, and they may have to shelter. They'll do that sometimes. Okay, so right here, this is expires in 23 minutes. Sussex County until 2:30. Homeville at 2:20. Waverly around 2:30. Moving north at 40 miles per hour. Newville, Booker, Yale, Lumberton, Littleton, Hilda. Gray as well. That's right on 40. 40 goes a long way. This is Interstate 95 here. And this is 40. This is 58, so it's all north of 58 at the moment, although there's more stuff developing south of Cortland, unfortunately, in Franklin. So let's look at Richmond. Oh my goodness, it's right over Shockoe Bottom, Clompton, Cherry Gardens. There's 95, Jackson Ward. That's a pretty distinct looking hook. You basically have your hook echo showing the broader storm here, right? And then if you get this little ball here on the end, that usually is a developing tornado or a funnel cloud or possibly a tornado. This would be the inflow notch. So I'm going to read you the text of that warning. I think it'll pop up on the screen actually. Tornado warning remains in effect till 2:30 for central Chesterfield, Henrico, south central Hanover counties, and the city of Richmond. That was at 2:02, producing a tornado, possibly, according to radar, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. Highland Springs, Mechanicsville, 2:15 to 2:20. Drury's Bluff, Montrose, Richmond Heights, Chamberlain, in the path of this as well. And I can actually show you more. You know, you got Churchill North, Churchill, Shockoe Bottom. There's 95. Looks to me like it's going to near 64 here, near 9 Mile Road, Glenwood Farms. This is 360 to Mechanicsville. That's a area I would not want to be in right now. And even if you're not in the circulation, you're getting the high wind possibly and the heavier rainfall. This is a look at the velocity. And it's pretty impressive actually. 62.6 miles per hour going away from the radar. We've been seeing that with some of our stronger systems, stronger couplets. Storm relative velocity is impressive. Got a lot of heavy rainfall. It could be flooding Richmond too, around Oregon Hill near Virginia Union University. So we're looking at a live possible tornado in Richmond at the moment. Very pronounced hook echo, another one following hot on its heels. So if you're in Richmond, or if you're Clompton or down 95 here, you just had the thing go by you, you got another one coming right behind it. And that reminds me, I need to keep watching back here because we've got the same situation back here in Southwest Virginia as well. Talk about a close call at the National Weather Service in Wakefield. This one near Sussex on 40 here has some rotation with it, enough for a tornado warning. Looks like it's lined up a little bit more linear now, which is good news. But if we put that in motion, you can see it was certainly spinning at one point. You can kind of right there see that very first frame. Let's see if I can get it back right there. Yep, north of Rivers Mill here, that was near Joyner, that blue, and right there on 609 near Gray. That was what prompted that tornado warning. So the rotation in that one has weakened, although the official tornado warning remains in effect almost in Wakefield, just to the west. They probably want to keep working. So, but when let's say there was a tornado warning for a weather service office, they would give it off to another weather service office to take over while they took shelter as well. Look at the rotation showing up in the second cell here, southwest of Richmond. And you see the updated polygon showing up. That's a very strong rotation there. We're on 288 going south of 360 there, but moving very close to Deerfield Estates, Chesterfield Courthouse, almost the same area that Richmond's getting hit with right now. And that's still some impressive rotation there right over Richmond. It's the east side of Richmond that we're concerned with. And then if we go back down to the south, it's pretty much that same track. It may go a little bit farther west. This next one has more rotation with it. And it's going to go up 10 to Cedar Farms and Cherry Gardens, it looks like. And we still do have the warning out for Waverly as well. Scary stuff. That's pretty ominous. there's your track. You can see where the rotation has certainly increased as these storms approach the Richmond area. And I was afraid that Richmond would be one of the harder hit areas because they were just far enough east to get in the warm air, but still close enough to Nicole to get the wind shear in the lower levels. But if I turn off the watch fill here, you can see the clear, long track rotation over several counties. And that's an indicator of a well-developed rotating storm, well-developed mesocyclone. So again, these are not spin-ups. These are not little isolated things. They can be tracked over several counties, and we now have the ability to do that in some of our newer technology. You can see the one in Franklin County that produced the warning moved due north and dissipated right as it got to Rocky Mount, luckily. But again, it goes to show you that the tornado watch isn't an exact thing. I mean, the outline of the watch is right here, but you've had warnings all day, all afternoon, just outside of the warning. So you'll hear, people say in and around the watch area is where you need to go. And that watch goes all the way up to Charlottesville, 64. Doesn't include Lexington, although I'd keep an eye out in Lexington. It does include Nelson County, which is fairly mountainous. In Amherst County, I'd also watch for flooding there as well. And east in the Appomattox, you've been hit by tornadoes before. Charlotte County, Halifax County, Farmville, under the tornado watch until 3, but I feel like they're going to extend it. I think we just got a new polygon out for Richmond. Don't have anything confirmed just yet. I was wondering about that because sometimes you'll see it turn purple on my program. That means that somebody's confirmed it. Or in this case, sometimes the radar actually can confirm it. I'm going to venture back home just for a second. I just want to take a look at some of these other cells that are moving in. I don't see anything too crazy. That's better. This looks promising. I don't want to count my eggs before they hatch here. This looks more like, except for in Roanoke. A little worried about that. And the stuff in Martinsville. Yeah. Any one of these, again, the more discreet they are, like the one in Reedsville, it's on its own, the better chance it has of spinning up into something. But then you've got this just large swath of rain that's going to come in. And at one point it looked like that was going to be the main cause of the potential tornadic activity. But in some of the later models, it looks like it may just be, hopefully, just more of a gentle or soaking rain, although it's coming down hard enough to produce the 6 to 10 inches of rain they're having in Boone, and they're still getting flooding reports coming in as we speak there. Let's look at Roanoke again, because you're getting some real heavy rain where we've got the flash flood warning in effect. And if we look at the velocity, it's a little hard to see. I do see some wind in here though, but I don't see anything sticking out as much as it was just a little bit earlier. And that may be because I was on the other program though. So now I'm back on my other program. Okay, so we're going to look at Roanoke. I do see some rotation just to the south, on southeast Roanoke, just south of Vinton. It's borderline. It's not like strong, but it's there. I don't know if this pixel is random or not, but that one blue pixel is 81 miles per hour. I'm hoping it's random because the rest of the elevations are not as strong. Some broad rotation heading towards Vinton, so just be on guard in Roanoke because, and then even Buchanan and as you get into Botetourt County, that's near the warm front. And again, that warm front's kind of sneaking a little bit closer to the parkway there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get at least a special weather statement out of this new cell, and we'll see what it wants to do. Got another storm report that just came down off the weather wire here at 125, 3 miles west-southwest of Fieldale. That was with that tornado warning. According to dispatch, winds blew down one large tree, which blocked one lane of Preston Road near the intersection of Wingfield Orchard Road. So I can actually go in and show you exactly where that is, if you're familiar with the area. That's a pretty populated area there. It looks like some of these trees came down. Some of those winds were trying to rotate, and they can still do straight line wind damage. Even rotating winds can do non-tornadic damage, if that makes sense. It's rotating, but it's not actually a tornado. And that's what we see a lot of times when we fall just short of that, but strong enough to get the warning out and, you know, make us all nervous. I'm going to put this radar in motion so you can get an idea of where everything's been and where it's going. And you don't see a lot of rain on the radar, but again, that was the problem. We broke out in the sunshine today, and we warmed up. And you've got that warm front that's converging the air. You've got low-level wind shear. You've got instability. And you've got tons of moisture. So again, when you add moisture to the air, it's amazing how much easier it is to get a tornado versus if you had dry air. I've seen cases where we were in a wedge and we had like 70-degree air in North Carolina, and we had like 40-degree air in Virginia, and we had a very pronounced tornado heading right into Patrick County. This was a year or two ago, and it hit the wedge and it just disintegrated right on the spot. Mark Overbeck, a storm chaser from Virginia Tech, who goes out and chases. He's on, I think he works for Salem now, fire department, but as a professional. But anyway, he sent me a picture. You could still kind of see the funnel cloud, but it really dissipated fast. Now today, we don't have that situation in place. We've got the opposite. We've got a lot of warm air here. And even to the north of the warm front, it's not too chilly. 64-degree dew point this time of the year is pretty high, actually. New River Valley has dew points 67, 68. Some of the other studies that have shown when the cool air wraps into a tornado, if it's cool but not too cool, that tends to be the point at which you can get a tornado. In other words, if it's too cool, it'll choke it off. And there's this fine line where it needs to be cool but not too cool to produce the mesocyclone to spin and then the concentrated area of the tornado there. Still seeing some rotation though in Danbury and King and Mount Airy. Nothing tightening at the moment. But again, any one of these little showers can do this. And again, the Richmond area getting hit really hard right now. So this is the potential for tornado shaded here. You've got temperatures here shown. And you can see those are obviously some very high values. That's the tornado watch. Hey Kirk, we're on the air. You can come on in. We've got a flash flood warning now for Richmond. We got a new tornado warning out here northeast of Richmond, moving northeast at 29 miles per hour. Goes into effect until 2:45. The one for Waverly still in effect for another 7 minutes, and a special weather statement for Petersburg. If you're in Petersburg, you need to treat that as a tornado warning as well. This whole area here, you know, wherever you have these southeast winds, the winds above the surface, just right above the surface, are coming in at more of a south to southwest direction. So you got this right here in the low levels, and then you go up aloft and you get this. So it doesn't, I mean, you can take a pencil in between your hands and move your hands at different directions, and that pencil's going to roll sideways. It's when it encounters an updraft that it takes the horizontal tornado and makes it vertical. In the basics, in the basic way of looking at it. We still don't know why some supercells produce tornadoes and some don't. Not to forget this, let's see if they've extended this. Watch. Still in effect until 3. We don't want to negate the flood potential here, so let me get rid of some of the stuff. I'm going to take off the wind and the temperatures just so you can see where the flood watch is in effect. And I can also show you rain rates. I meant to do that too. Hold on one second. So much going on today. Or yesterday. I don't even know what day it is right now. Let's see. I've got that under my model tab. I got you. We'll take that off. Okay. So Floyd County to Patrick County is under a flood watch. Southwest into Hillsville into Grayson County, all the way down to Spruce Pine, and just to the north of Hickory, into Lenore, Marion, Asheville. But getting closer to our area, it's in effect until 7 p.m. tonight for that rain going in. And we've got numerous flash flood warnings now in effect just south of Boone. We've got general flood warnings, which is almost the same as a flash flood warning, just not quite as severe, but pretty bad. In fact, we can pop up some local storm reports here, I think, if they'll pop up. You can see some of those flooding reports there, but there you see the center of what's left in the coal. Notice they've put considerable damage in the flash flood warning east of Asheville. That must be a bad situation. Have you been to Asheville? That it's called Black Mountain. Very high terrain and lots of runoff. Some of the craziest terrain in the eastern United States is right here between Johnson City and Asheville, and going up to Boone and White Top. So the flood watch joins right up with the tornado watch. That's still in effect officially at this moment. And the crawling that you see here is where the Weather Prediction Center says, hey, it's going to verify. We've got more rain coming. So let me show you the precipitation rate. This is kind of a neat feature. This shows us, sometimes it's not a big deal if you get 4 inches of rain. Again, most of us can take about 2 to 4 inches of rain in 24 hours. Problem is, this is tropical rain. It's falling really hard and fast, and it even deceives you. Like when you're driving through it, it'll pour down, but you'll be like, it's a shower. But when it's tropical like that, it fools you, and what we call very efficient rainfall rates, basically. So, let's go into Roanoke, where we've got this flash flood warning in effect for another 228 minutes. It is raining at 4.9 inches an hour. Now, it's not going to be doing that for another hour, but just that rain rate. Let's do some math here. That's, you take half of that, that's 2.5 inches in 30 minutes. That's 1.25 inches every 15 minutes. That's a lot of rain. That's just too much water coming down. And in fact, if I pixel a little bit more here, the Roanoke City, and again, remember, Roanoke City is mainly pavement. It's in a bowl. 5.2 inches an hour. This updates a lot, so just update it there for us. Very high rain rates in some of these systems. So I don't want to discount the tornado threat, but I do need to tell you that we've got some just very, very isolated but very, very intense rainfall rates over small areas. But if you live in there, like let's go to Floyd County, for instance. Just north of Floyd, it's raining at 0.6 inches an hour. That's doable. But if you get up here in this cell, it's raining at nearly 2 inches an hour. And if it were to keep doing that, you are going to end up with some problems here in another hour or two. And I think that's why we've got this crawling area where the Storm Prediction Center or the Weather Prediction Center said, all right, be on guard. And it's kind of common sense. You're looking upstream and you're seeing all these flash flood warnings in effect. You've got the flash flood watch in effect to the north and to the east. So only a matter of time before this heavier rainfall moves in. And even in Franklin County, areas that are not in the flood watch, Roanoke, well, Roanoke's in the flood warning, but Bedford County, even Southside, where the concern's been tornadoes today. As we go into the evening hours, we're going to have the heavy rainfall to worry about. Even though we may not have a flash flood watch or a flood watch in effect, the rainfall rates, if they get back up there again with this tropical air, they could cause some issues out there. So I'm just going through, I'm looking at North Carolina. So somewhat behaving itself, but look down here across South Carolina. I'm going to widen the view. Some of these other storms that are well away from the center, as I mentioned, 2.5 inches in an hour. That one, though, in Roanoke was crazy. That was 5 inches in an hour. And that's now moving in the Fincastle, it looks like, near the Delville, Cloverdale, not far from the Cracker Barrel and the roundabout there. 3.1 inches an hour still, 2.0 inches just to the west of Daleville. And look at the topography up underneath here. I like to have that there because the water's going to go to the easiest place it can find, lowest spot. So our mountains oftentimes will enhance that topography. So our flooding, I think our flooding concern is going to be increasing. Our tornado concern remains there. We can look at rotational tracks. You can see we actually had quite a bit of rotation over Roanoke not too long ago. And in Richmond, you can see these brighter colors showing us where we had the still have the tornado warning in effect, as a matter of fact. A couple of them. I'm going to update this, see if this warm front has moved. I have to do that manually. Place file manager, refresh. Okay, so they still got it hugging the Blue Ridge, basically, which is not surprising. The storm's not really moving that far north and west anymore. It's pretty much moving north, northeast. Lots of lightning jumping out of these storms, though, in Richmond and in Petersburg, and that's an indication of strong storms. Can be an indicator of strengthening storms sometimes. This is a composite radar image, so it's not going to be very detailed, but it gives you an idea. Petersburg, still some nasty weather and possible rotation. Looks like Waverly's now in the clear. This purple area is where the Storm Prediction Center has given an update to their tornado watch, basically saying they're going to keep it going. And so all facets are still on the table for another several hours. I'm going to take this opportunity to take a rest. And I really appreciate you guys joining me on Patreon and joining me in the live stream. And this is not the end of my broadcast. I'll probably have to jump on at least one or two more times before the evening is done. So hold on one second. I'm getting something here. Yeah, one of my media partners is asking about the 3 o'clock time too, if we're going to expand it or keep it going, and they are figuring it out right now. They got a new shift coming in at the Weather Service, and they're going to evaluate this tornado watch, whether or not to shave it. A lot of times they will shave it from southwest to northeast. They'll look at the parameters. They'll look and see the same things we're looking at. Energy Helicity Index, is it still high? Is it still going to be high in another hour or two? Or is this general rain going to come in and soften things up a little bit? This is the significant tornado parameter off of this program. You can see it's pretty high. Goes right up to Roanoke. So it's close. They had it till 3. That's a pretty good guess. It's probably going to still be a threat through 4 or 5 o'clock. It wouldn't surprise me if they shave it away and say they'll still put warnings out if they need to. We'll see. That's a close call. I wouldn't want to be the one making that call. This is how much spin the storms have to work with if they need it. This is the amount of instability in the air. So you see in the cooler air up here, up in the highlands, there's no red shading. That means the air's stable. So if you lift it, it falls back down. That's why that storm that moved out of Roanoke weakened as it got into Allegheny County. Still rained, but didn't have the updraft strength. This is basically fuel that you're looking at here. And we measure that in joules per kilogram. There's no absolute value that says you get a tornado at 1,000 or 500. You can get them at as little as 250 joules per kilogram, and you can get them at 6,000 joules per kilogram. And sometimes you have capes of 3,000 joules per kilogram, but you don't have a tornado. So there's no absolute value, but where there is cape and where there is rotation in the atmosphere, that's what we call this value. This is the energy helicity index. So this combines the potential for spin and the cape, if that makes any sense. And you can see how it lines up with where the storms are right now. So yeah, the core danger is from Farmville to Roanoke Rapids, but there's this other core, this kind of lingering area from Roanoke to Greensboro to Mount Airy to Lumberton, all the way down here. And I want to put this in motion before I sign off. I want to see what this stuff in South Carolina is going to do. When I was at WSLS, we used to put our Viper radar on our sub channel, and that's all it was. We just had it looping all the time. And eventually they changed it to like a actual channel. We had so many complaints from people because they actually liked looking at the radar loop on their own, and they could just figure out which way the weather was moving. And there's a lot of truth to that, so I like to do this every now and then. So I'm looking at that stuff around Hickory and the Charlotte. That's that next batch that's going to be coming through. It looks like it's strengthening some. And the values are still red. Still, I don't know. I think they're going to have to keep that tornado watch up. I would not let my guard down until after 7. You can see they shaved part of it away there and there. So it was in effect for Charlotte. Then once the band moved through, they got rid of it, but they kept it up for our counties. It looks like that's the decision. That may be the newest update. And I think that's a good call. Let's see if it says anything different. I haven't seen it come across the wire yet. Yeah, it's still this morning's update. Okay. New special weather statement in effect, just as I'm about to sign off for this cell in Blue Ridge. I was mentioning it's coming out of Roanoke, and I mentioned the warm front sneaking into Botetourt County. So again, watch the storm in Botetourt County near Fincastle. It's got some weak rotation with it there. And again, there's no real absolute value. You know, you can look at this and say, okay, South Hill's going to get the majority of the tornadic activity. But, you know, it doesn't happen like that. If you've got just enough of anything, it's going to do what it's going to do. So let's look real quick at Troutville. Ooh, real close, real tightly packed cell there on 220, between 81 and 220 there. So if you're making your way towards Fincastle or the interstate, I'd hate to be on 81 right now, or 11. It's very heavy rain. Let's see if we've got any rotation here. We definitely have some high wind. I don't know if it's going to pick up a rotation. This program's color palette doesn't show it as well. Let me read to you the special weather statement. You'll be able to see it, I believe. Just issued 234, Doppler radar indicating strong thunderstorm over Troutville, moving north at 35, winds of 30 miles per hour. Troutville, Eagle Rock, Fincastle, Nace, Laymantown, Daleville, and Springwood. This storm may, okay, this is what I'm saying. They put these out. They're not technically warnings, but they basically are hinting that they may put a warning out. So this is your kind of early heads up in Botetourt County. Early heads up. You may get a warning soon, okay? Read it with me. This storm may intensify. So be certain to monitor local radio stations and available television stations. You know, one day I hope they put in internet sources, but it's okay, for additional information and possible warnings from the National Weather Service. And by the way, the warnings, tornado warnings, auto post to my Facebook page, Meteorologist Jamie Singleton. And if you go on my Twitter page, everything posts automatically when it comes out, just to let you know that. See another cell popping up around Alta Vista. You know, just when you think things are quieting down, the environment says not so fast. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to let me look at Fincastle and Troutville real quick. Yeah. There's a special weather statement that just got put out through this program. There's some strong wind here. Very strong wind. I would not be surprised if you get a tornado warning in Botetourt County. I'm not calling it. I'm not allowed to. But Eagle Rock, Fincastle, Troutville, be on guard. You may get a tornado warning. You definitely have rotation near Troutville right now. You've got a developing area of rotation. It's not crazy, but it's there. It's elongated, but it's trying. It's trying. Once it gets closer to maybe Fincastle, it's going right up the interstate, unfortunately. It may try to do something. All right. So you folks in Botetourt County, I just shared to your community page not too long ago. Watch out. This is possibly the next warning. This is like the pre-warning. And it's a special weather statement, so it could just remain a special weather statement. Or it can intensify. Especially if Fincastle has warmed up. And that front sitting right off to the south and east of you. Seeing more cells now. Alta Vista. Let me check that thing out. Nothing yet. Seeing some broad spin still going on around Danbury and Stewart, where we kind of expect everything. There's a low gap to Dodson here. Bit of a wind shift. That may end up turning. That may organize too. So watch out, Surrey County, Stokes County. Because that's right near the warm front. And then Patrick County again, it may be about to cycle back. We may be on the verge of another round here. As you hear my voice get quieter, the lack of sleep and everything else. I've done it before. I've when I did hurricanes and stuff. It's what you do. People ask me when I sleep, and actually when there's no weather going on, I sleep a lot. I think it's like God's way of letting me rest up for when I need to be doing what he called me to do. Your Oak level, what's going on here? It's a tiny little shower, but there's a big area. There's a nice little updraft there. I'm looking at the shapes of raindrops, and the big fat raindrops are the red areas. The circular raindrops are the less bright areas. And if we get big raindrops above the freezing level, that tells us that we've got a very strong updraft. So our freezing levels, since we got tropical air, it's way up there. I just want to see. All right. Better behave. I was about to sign off. I'm not comfortable signing off yet. Then again, if I do, I might get more viewers again if something else comes out. So what I might do is take this opportunity to sign off because I got a feeling I'm going to have to sign back on in a few minutes. And again, I'd watch Botetourt County, I'd watch Franklin County, Campbell County, Pennsylvania County. We mentioned this area here. I did. Lynchburg, the Danville, Charlotte Courthouse. You really haven't seen a lot yet, but you are 80 degrees. It's 80 in South Boston and to Chatham and Charlotte Courthouse, 75 in Farmville. And I think you're going to have to get your turn in here before this ends. So over the next couple of hours here, 2:44, next few hours, things might get dicey. It's got another tornado warning out for our friends in Eastern Virginia, but as soon as I said that, we also got the same one I was watching near Galax. I mentioned that, low gap, that wind shift. There's a special weather statement out. Again, that's kind of a heads up. Fancy Gap, Galax, Southern Carroll County. There's some broad rotation here. The storm may intensify. 30 mile per hour winds right now. Galax, Fancy Gap, Mountain Park Bottom, Cana, Lambsburg, and Cumberland Knob. You need to treat this as a severe thunderstorm warning or tornado warning, even though it's not alerting like it is. A lot of the apps and everything like that will display special weather statements. Speaking of that, let me show you. I did want to, and there you see it there graphically. Also includes Piper's Gap and Crooked Oak, nearing the Landonia area. So 2 special weather statements in effect for our area. Numerous tornado warnings just to our east, and any one of these could become a tornado warning any second. So what I want to do is, real quickly, if you're still with me, hats off to you for sticking around. Listen to me talking. Okay. I wanted to show you, if you're not on my Twitter yet, and you want a way to get all the stuff as it comes out, you can do that. So that's my page. Let me go to my actual profile. So you will see as I've been streaming, so I haven't been tweeting anything, right? Let me go a little closer. So you can follow me and you can kind of set the alarm every time there's a tweet. You might get a lot of these though. Any special weather statement that's in and around the area, there's the one that just came out 1 minute ago. You can click on that and read it. It'll alert you. Also, I've got a double service that does this. So through my second service, you get the special weather statement and the radar and the graphic. So you get the text on there and you get the graphic of the radar. It's kind of cool. I don't do it for Facebook because it will post way too much, and it's mainly made for Twitter. Looks like they did expire the tornado watch, so I learned that through my Twitter page. But when it came out, it looked like that. I'm not sure. Well, they got to do what they got to do. There's the other special weather statement. You can see the flood warning for Watauga. I am actually looking at this to get information for myself, just to see what it looked like for everybody else. That was the warning that came out 54 minutes ago. It's a good way to archive stuff too. So you can go to Jamie Singleton on Twitter and give me a follow. I will give you a little hint. What I'm trying to do in the background here is I've gotten in touch with some people that make Roku apps and cell phone apps with push notifications, and I'm going to be doing that at some point. So you'll be able, whether you got an Apple phone or an Android or you're on Roku, those are my 3 main things I'm trying to get done. Got to raise a little money for it, but I think I can handle it. So look for that at some point. Hopefully getting that done before the winter. 3.94 inches melt. Apple Orchard Mountain. I wanted to show you this too. I'm sorry. I'll probably post this stuff later. These are rainfall amounts over the past 24 hours from almost all sources. You can see over 2 inches for a good part of the Roanoke Valley, Franklin County, Floyd County, 2.28, 2.71. Then you get down here in the western North Carolina, and it goes way up. 4.08. And you see the color shading going up there too. It'll take a while to populate those numbers, I believe. Yeah. 4.39. There's some 7-inch numbers in there as well. 6.84. Just a lot of rain in the mountains, which is the worst case scenario. So we got a lot of rain coming too. Don't want you to forget that as well. That's it for now. I almost don't know how to sign off. I feel like I'm in a zone, like hypnotized. This is the Her model, by the way. Look, hold on one second. Y'all quit laughing at me. I can't help it. All right. I wanted to watch this anyway. Let me go back a little tighter for you. Okay. Let's see what it's calling for. This is a rapid update cycle. So this is valid now. So this has these storms I'm watching intensifying from Charlotte to Boone by 3:45, 4 o'clock. And you can see the little notches in there as well. So watch out, NRV, Pulaski, Galax for flooding and possible rotation through 5 p.m. at least. And then by 5 to 6, it starts to move into south side. So I mentioned these areas here east of Roanoke and Lynchburg and Farmville and Danville, Raleigh, Durham, Martinsville. You may get your turn here if the model's correct between 4 and 6 o'clock. And then it's more of a general rain after that. But look at Charlottesville. Northern Virginia. Watch out here. Charlottesville to Harrisonburg. Culpeper, Fredericksburg maybe. By 7 or so. And we finally get this mess out of here. It's still going to be windy behind this thing, but cooler and more stable. All right, I'm done for now. I will be back if and when the next warning comes out, and I am really pushing it because it may be soon. So let me catch a break, and I'll